Moving on, the fledgling democracy in Afghanistan is under US protection for nearly 18 years. Where the US troops actively guarded the Afghan men and territory for more than a decade after the ouster of Taliban regime, they have been training and assisting Afghan forces for past 5 years. However, it appears that Washington, which promised to significantly reduce its troops in Afghanistan following a peace deal with Taliban, might have to walk the talk as the process is gaining momentum. Today, in this edition of Newsweek South Asia, we focus on how US departure from the region can have drastic consequences not just on this war-torn country, but the entire South Asia. A report. The number of US troops in Afghanistan, which has reduced from over 100,000 in 2011 to around 14,000 today, might come down to absolute zero in coming months. President Trump, who pushed for the withdrawal of US soldiers from Afghanistan during his presidential campaign in 2016, has on several occasions indicated that Washington is mulling over calling its soldiers back from the protracted war. He is further being pushed by his political rivals to fulfill his promises. The on and off peace process between the Taliban and the United States is also sustaining over Washington's promise of withdrawing its forces from the region. However, both Kabul and Washington are unsure and uncomfortable over the question whether peace will definitely return to war-torn country once the US army departs. And if not, then what?
Taliban, basically, they are zealots. They don't believe in peace or development. They have their different agenda. Their agenda is to implement extremist religious ideology in the country. And we have seen in the past what they have done in Afghanistan. So they'll repeat the same thing, And that is why large majority of the people in Afghanistan are opposing. Almost more than 70-80% people are opposed to these peace talks, or they don't want at least the Taliban to come to the power.
Terrorist group Al-Qaeda, which America believed was decimated by its forces in 2001, has dispensed more than one proof of its existence and resurgence. While it was hiding and recovering earlier from the US onslaught in federally administered tribal areas of Pakistan, it is now believed to have several functional camps inside Afghanistan. There is an apprehension that US departure, followed with the possible covert support from Taliban, the Al-Qaeda will grow dreadful and fearless. Pakistan, a state that has historically supported the rise of terrorism and have been the epicenter of several terrorist attacks across South Asia, will capitalize the situation. And this will pose a greater security challenge to entire Indian subcontinent and Middle East.
It's a matter of great concern not only for South Asia, but equally a concern would be, in Central Asia and Caucasus region, because this is the region where similar Islamic ideology, is prevailing, and these are the places, they have already. Pakistan has already helped establish militant groups in these countries. So I don't think they will continue to promote their agenda. They are not going to sit idly. Even they think it is their religious duty to spread their version of Islam.
Peace is still an elusive dream in Afghanistan, where the Taliban have been rapidly gaining ground and control large swathes of territory today. A clear winner of the September presidential election has still not been declared. The situation will more likely deteriorate if Taliban, the insurgent group which has rejected the idea of a democratic, peaceful atmosphere, becomes a major player in government formation. The Islamic fanaticism might provide a conducive atmosphere to the rise of more radical organizations, thereby posing another challenge not just to Afghans but entire South Asia. Political experts say that the talks won't solve the problems until Afghan government is a stakeholder in it.
I don't think something very substantial will come out of it because the main stakeholders, the government and the other civil society group are still out of the peace negotiations. Mainly the government, which is the most important part, which is responsible for maintaining peace and stability in the country, is not a stakeholder as yet.
The United States has lost more than 2,400 troops since 2001. The start and stop peace talks have failed in delivering anything substantial. While sometimes it is the insurgent Taliban who decline the government offers, on other occasions, the Kabul establishment refuses to approve Taliban proposals. Critics say that in such an endless and uncertain situation, US troop withdrawal should be the priority of the US government.
Withdrawal will not help solve the problem, because this is unfinished agenda. Before withdrawal, I think they should develop some mechanism, whereby the training for these armed forces of Afghanistan continues. Some funding should continue to flow in Afghanistan so that institutions, other institutions of the state should also be strengthened. And I think it is a responsibility of the international community to see to it, that Afghanistan do not destabilize. And it will have direct repercussions, particularly on neighboring countries as well as in India.
It is not just Taliban and Al-Qaeda, but terrorist groups, including the Islamic State, have been rearing their head and are waiting for an opportune time to strike. The security vacuum might be taken over by them. While the US troops' absence is going to be detrimental, it is also a matter of fact that a large section of the Afghan population wants them to leave. They believe that Washington is driven by power and has its personal motivations behind their prolonged stay. Political class led by President Ashraf Ghani, however, have rejected the sensittism and have time and again expressed its gratitude for the US government.